And which one are you starting with? This one?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, see if that's working. Can you hear me? Oh, I guess you gotta turn this.
Again, no.
Wait, let me turn this on. Okay. Now try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. Long you up, would you mind starting the word of prayer? Because I probably need it.
Okay. Our dear Father in heaven, we're thankful for the opportunity to be here. So we're grateful to learn. And to be with him and that things clearly and stand and use to help us in our own work. Provided to us.
I thought I'd take a couple of minutes and talk about the evolution of family search and genealogy work in general. How long ago it's been? Probably 10 years, maybe less than that. I was watching a little video clip between conference sessions, and they were talking about DNA research. And the guy, whoever it was, 121st section, Dr. Covenants, verses 36 and 37, I think it was. And anyway, it says, I will give unto you knowledge by the unspeakable gift of the Holy Ghost that has not been revealed since was, which our forefathers have waited with anxious expectation to be revealed in the last days for the fullness of their glory. And that explains pretty much in the fullness of their glory what goes on in the temple work, in my humble opinion. Okay. This work has expanded so much, it's unbelievable to me over the last 50, 60 years. What's going on? In the 60s, 70s, it took me 10 years to come up with about 10,000 names to publish this book. Okay, and my primary sources were census records that I had to go to the National Archives, and there was one located in California, and there was another one, of course, obviously in DC, that I had to go to get access to census records, or I had to come to Salt Lake. And months between what I could do in Salt Lake, or do there. There's certainly no access to anything at home. Computers were not even relevant in the 60s. And so it took, I don't know if you've ever looked at a census record that was not indexed, okay? And it takes probably about sometimes an hour to go through a particular county to look at a particular census record. Now you can do that in seconds, okay? That's what it's come to. And not only can you look at a census record in seconds, Ancestry will give you all the other references that come up to that person you're looking at, or possible person that you're looking at as you do that work. So it's amazing, and it's a prophecy that's come true in my mind about what's available and how we can access that. When I did this, besides census records, I had to use snail mail to write possible relatives. And if you even got, I said 10,000 letters out, 1,000 letters out, the possible relatives from a book that they used to publish that had phone numbers and addresses on people that had your particular surname. So, and some people, maybe 10% answered, but you know how long it took to get an answer from a letter? A couple of weeks if you got one that got an answer at all.
Got one,
Yeah. So now, you know, the correspondence with email, and, you know, on Family Search, they have a little where you can communicate with people, and not only tells you can communicate how they're related to you. Okay. So it's fantastic. Okay. It's absolutely fantastic. I do most of my research at home, just using Ancestry and Family Search. But then there are things that I can do here that I have to come to the library. And then at some point I usually have to go to Salt Lake, okay, to look at references. So And I'll explain why in a few minutes, but I suspect I get 90% things done at home, but the rest of the time I can't do it. There's just things that are available here at this library that are really good. Now, this class kind of got, my wife was supposed to teach it, and she is very good in European research. I don't do European research. I mean, once in a while I'll do English research and never anything in continental Europe. I just don't have any relatives there. English and Irish I get 2 once in a while, but my family came here in the 1640s, both my mother's family and my father's family, and the Bloomer underwear came from my family. Okay, so I'll tell you that. That's my story. Ladies Bloomer, okay, and my daughters loved it because you know, Bloomer represented women's lib in the 1850s, and actually some women went to jail for wearing skirts that showed their knees, or you know, just believe that or not. And that was an international fad, bloomers, and they really didn't come from Amelia Bloomer, because they were called pantaloons before that, but she was a Amelia Bloomer. Anthony worked together, and another lady named Elizabeth Caddystan, and Elizabeth Bloomer had access to a newspaper that her husband ran, and she would post articles in his newspaper that were untitled. So people find out that she was writing them, and they said Mrs. Bloomers because it was part of women's lib. And women, the reason they started that initially was because women's skirts would drag in the mud and drain and whatever, and they just didn't. So the shorter ones worked better, but it was against a lot of short your ankles in Ohio. Okay. Anyway, so again, research is amazing to me, and that prophecy in the 121st section of Dr. Cummins just reminds me every day of the truthfulness of this work and what you can accomplish with it. Salt Lake, okay. Genealogy Society, if you want to even call it that, was a storefront at 240 South Main Street that was probably not bigger than this room, and a lot of books that were up on the bookshelves were on the little mezzanine up there. Then they moved over to the headquarters center, and it was in the southwest corner of the church, and it wasn't much bigger than this. When I went to BYU, this was a room full of video projectors, but projectors to look at film. So I appreciate the advantages again of what you do. Look, you need to look at a film. One day, and I worked at a mission, or was on a mission in Salt Lake City, and I was helping some lady look at it, and I said, well, we might have to look at a film. You know, what are you talking about? A film, you know? And I said, microfilm. Well, what is microfilm? Okay, so that's where we've come to. But at any rate, I thought for a minute, for a few minutes, I'd talk about Ancestry and why I love Ancestry. Okay, I mean it's a great tool, and this is one of the reasons why I brought this up of this individual. I want to talk for a few minutes about extracting and indexing of names. Ancestry the church does a better job of that, but Ancestry has some things in there that are really helpful at times. And one of those is, you see this number here, certificate number, all right? And this is what they extracted. The bare minimum of the information they extracted was this. Now, from this certificate number, I know it tells me, and it should tell you, that there is a certificate someplace along the way, and it gives Kings County, and the church in this case did not have this posted on Sarah. That's not. Maybe I got kicked off here because I haven't done this for a while, or let it sit there idle for a while. Oh, no. Okay. From that record that I knew existed from Ancestry, okay? I went to the church's website, Family Search, and once in a while they will have the certificate available. This was not available. I knew that it had to exist, and I knew that it probably was available. So from there, I went on to a search in the catalog for Kings County, New York, for death certificates, or is this a marriage one anyway? Their certificates, and I can see right there they have an index. And if you go to the bottom of those references, okay, it will give you the names and dates in alphabetical order, those certificates available. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because this solved the problem that I had been working on for several weeks by just knowing the guy's middle name, okay? Because that happened to be the middle name of his mother, I mean, his mother's maiden name. And somebody had, there was another name, you always find an ancestry or family search conflicts, and somebody had reported her name as something else. And for me, I did not know where that name had come from, and say there weren't any sources. But it always poses another question for me when I see somebody that has an unsourced information that I wonder where they got it from. So I go to extra link to either prove it right or prove it wrong. And in this case, I had found another record that showed Humphrey, and it was on my grade that showed her name as Humphrey. But that still wasn't good enough for me. I needed another source to be satisfied that that was his mother's maiden name. Because you see here, this is his parents, John Wise, and they didn't know, but that Humphrey name told me the answer. Okay. So the point being there, that if you can find a source, the original source, make sure you look at it, okay? A certificate, and not just take the extracted information and say, oh, that's good. All right. The same thing, census records, and you can look at census records using, you can look at all the census records. Now, but make sure that you go to the actual record and glean all the information that's out and not just use the extracted information. Another good example of that is the extracted information on the ancestry record that I was looking at showed that the man and the woman and the mother-in-law was listed. Okay. So if it's the mother-in-law, daughter must be the same, must be her maiden name. Well, when I went to the actual record, the census record, they had left out the two people that these people were living with. They didn't include everybody that was in that home. They did not. So the mother-in-law happened to be the daughter of the family that they were living with, and not the people that they listed there. So that's a good reason to look at that. And I told one this morning, I was helping a lady in here. She did not have a marriage date on somebody that would be alive in the 1900s. Okay. 1900 census tells how long people have been married. I love 1900 census. Tells how long people have been married. Tells what year they've gotten married. So you know that. It has what month they were formed in, and that sometimes a month makes a difference, especially if you're looking at military records, because of these same people they not have the same year of birth, but very unlikely to have the same month and year in the same location. Also, there's great information on immigration records, shows when they were immigrated in the United States, shows what status they were, whether they filed an application or not. And that's only a bit, they don't extract that information, but you can find that information on other records and other sources. I'm going to go back to Okay. Let me talk a little bit about, if I can, about research procedures, okay? And I come across people all the time that come in the library and they really don't have a focus on what they want. I want to find my grandmother who was born in 1800. And so that's where they start looking at your notes. You have to start at the known information. Right? Information. When I get somebody's name, the first thing, well, one of the first things I do when I search, if you search public member trees, okay, you make sure that this work hasn't been done or this research hasn't been done before. It's very interesting to me, and I'll make this point, very interesting to me. The other night I was working on a problem and I typed this information in 3 or 4 different ways and I didn't get an answer, a response. There was nothing came up. The next morning I got up, I typed the same information in again, and I got results. And I have no idea how these search engines work, but it seems like it's relatively common that a search engine does not turn up the same information all the time. And especially spelling variation on the last name. The way census records work is that people got paid to go around and enumerate those people. Okay. After they got, I don't know what they got, but they got paid to do that. So it's very, very unlikely that people are not going to be in the census records. Okay? And you can search them various ways. Is everybody familiar with the asterisk? You could put an asterisk, it's kind of a wild card search thing. And I use that all the time, especially if names that are spelled a little bit differently. And you can vary those names. And usually, I was working on one the other day. It took me 5 times before I got a response, but I did get a response. A lot of times, just narrowing the name incrementally and putting an asterisk, like if it's just an S, you put an asterisk. If you get an SEND, do it. You usually get a response. You can do that at home, and then that helps you get a response. Let me go to James again. There's other thing is when you finding people. Find similar people. Okay. I use that a lot too at home when I'm talking about this is research I can do at home. Because I want to extract all the information that I can at home because my time is valuable. It takes me time to come over here and I'm lucky to get involved in doing something else besides what I want to do. Okay. but I want to do, okay, because I get information that I can't otherwise. So find similar people, and it's got this guy up here, and we'll see how many people come up. You can see the list here of people that come up that are similar. All right, some are close, some are not, but again, when you start a problem, you want to make sure that you're not duplicating somebody's research that's already been done. So when somebody comes in here with a problem or you're working on your problems, all right, look and see those trees that have already been submitted, or family search, finding people, or this find similar people will help you alleviate a lot of trouble. It's amazing to me how much information I can end up adding on a person before it shows up as a duplicate. All right, it really surprises me, and a lot of that has to do with standardization. All right, because standardized artificial intelligence does not recognize. Now, I'm gonna take a minute to get on a soapbox here. How many times have you done research and trying to verify a name or person that you wound up having to eliminate them? They're close enough that you find it, you're doing the research, but it's not not the family you're looking at, okay? This happens to me quite often. Well, I collect the information, all right? I've already collected the information and I want to add it to family search. I don't have to do the work, but I've done the research and I can post a couple of sources. And to me, this work is so big that in the millennium before it gets done, okay? But I can add that name to family search, even though it's not related to me. And if you look right here on, gotta go back here. I gotta think about this. Oh, I know what it is. If you look under recent people that you've looked at, and you go down to the bottom, add unconnected persons, okay? That's, if you don't do anything for your family, I mean, your family's been around a long time, and it's back in the research. When I'm doing research and I come across somebody that I've eliminated, it's not the person I'm looking for, it's somebody else. And that happens quite frequently. All right, so I can just go here and add unconnected people and put the information in, and they're ready for their work to be done. Now, I think it's a valuable service to somebody, and you can do it. Oh, another thing, how many of you oftentimes run into people that have been entered in family search, no records for them? Okay, I don't know, and all it says is family search. There's no sources or anything. It just says family. Especially if somebody born contemporarily, and you need a source to do that. You need some kind of information. So I try to put a source for that. You can do that too. I think I get to this guy too. See. Family search is really good about something I was working on recently, and this is a probate record, all right, and this was extracted off of Ancestry. I don't love it. Again, I didn't have to look for the will, and usually on Ancestry, it's divided up the different categories of probate records that there are. Just a statement. This one just had this guy died, and he wasn't married, but it names all these people in here and tells how they're related. Well, I got to this guy here, John H. Gray. Resides in Newberry, Orange County, New York. Okay, well, everybody else in here is a relative some way. So I found John, told me where John Drake is living, and I'm assuming that he's a relative. Okay, because he's mentioned this will. Well, I found who he was, I found his family, and I just entered it because there they were, and it had all these sources. We're talking about this was 1864, and this Nathaniel was born in 1802. So I wound up submitting the information to him, not thinking I'll run across it some way. And sure enough, I did, and he turned out to be the attorney for the family. And so, he gets a free trip to the temple. Okay, thanks to me. Okay. So he wasn't part of the family, but the rest of these people were all part of the family, and it took me a long time to figure out who all these people were, because it connected several generations. And this name was spelled about 10 different ways in all these records. I thought about family search for a second there. Again, and I was able to do this at home because Family Search provided the wills. Ancestry, very seldom do I see an ancestry will, a will pop up in Ancestry. Okay, they just don't do it. But I'll talk about what another thing that Ancestry does very good, and let me show you how to do that at home that you might not think about. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Okay, this is some research that I did, and all of these, I wound up, and I had to do this a little differently because there's so many sources. 31 sources on this guy, and I'm talk about. I didn't. Maybe I have connected them. Let me see if I can do that. What I want to show you here is. Okay, this is lands and deeds. Okay, land records, deeds, and mortgage records. Those are all available. People don't use those very often. I don't know why. I don't think I can get back to where the step prior to this, land records are indexed almost for every county and state that I can think of. So these are indexed, and Ancestry or Family Search will bring them up and give you the page and volume, or Libra they call it, that these records are on. And people, and when it brings up the index page, okay, in those records, that stops people. All you have to do is click on this reference right up here that appears right after the index book you're looking at, and it will bring up every county in that state. This happens to be New York, and that happened to be Dutchess County, and okay. All I had to do was click that, and this gives me the book number and page, and then you got to look it up from there. And I suggest that you copy down the image number, then you can get to it a lot faster. And all these counties are all the states and the counties, all the states and their counties are set up almost all the same way. Here are mortgage records. Okay, now these are indexed. These are indexed here too, but all I can do is go to the book and pick up the page number. You got to search for that. But the reason these are very valuable, especially prior to the 1850s, is because usually when somebody takes out a mortgage, it includes the mother's given name, okay, or the wife's given name. At least you have that to start with. And I was talking to the class this morning. It's almost 90% of the time that a woman is married a couple of years before her husband. I mean, not married, but I mean a couple of years younger than her husband. They're very seldom the same. If there's a big difference in age groups between the guy's probably been married twice, or the woman's probably been married twice. But generally, a couple of years younger than the guy, and every child, and if they don't, you're missing, the child died, okay? And like I talked about the 1900 census, again, if you look in there, it has how many children the woman had, married woman, how many children she had, and how many are still living, okay? So that gives me that I can look for a child if it's missing to try to find that child. So, and that's off the, but mortgage records, people often, mortgage to family and friends, and especially if you see a land record or a mortgage record where there's only $1 or $2, some minimal charge them, it's a family member. Okay, so those are interesting. All right. All right. Once I figured I had exhausted everything at home, okay, I come here, I exhaust everything that's here, and this is almost inevitable. I wind up going to Salt Lake. And the reason I have to go to Salt Lake is because their books are amazing. The books that are, and I don't know, problem, but with copyright laws, and so they've taken a lot of those books off of being digitized, but you can't look at them. But some have, and when you can read a book there, you can bring it up online with Wildcat, and you can get to that book. Okay, so and you can usually do that at home as well as here, but you can do it at home if it's available. But I bet 90% of the books I want to look at are not available because they're copyrighted, and I think the copyright law start books, anything published after 1894, yeah, maybe a little later, that are still have copyrights on. The church can't put them on big or online, or they're available at the library, one which they have. So it just takes a trip to Salt Lake, I'm going to go back just a little bit. Talk about, I hope that you all have some kind of program, whether it's Freemaker or Roots Magic or whatever, that you have, and it records stuff on that file. It's a little bit difficult because you usually have to wind it in twice. But nobody can make changes to that information when you record it in your thing. Nobody can change it if you post it on Ancestry tree. You make a change on Family Search, somebody can come in and change it tomorrow. I use Family Tree Maker, and it has an alphabetized list of all the people that I enter, and I enter even people that I'm not related to, like that wasn't Baker, whatever his name was, John H. I enter that there because invariably I'll be doing a name and a week later I'll click and say, I've seen that last name before, but I don't know where I saw it. I just remember seeing it. If I record it in Family Tree, I can alphabetize that and I can look at it and find it. That happens a lot of times. It's amazing people that I see like people that I work on. There's always a family connection. Maybe in the next generation, somebody married somebody in there that's connected. Pick that up easier, because when I research something, I try to research it to the end. Okay, and when I say, I'll show you what I'm talking about here, even if it's not my direct descendants. I mean, like this Wise family, I try to go through, and this is the guy I'm connected to, William Ward. wise. But what about his other family members? Okay. And that's how I was doing this guy. I wanted to trace his ancestry. So you can get 3 or 4 generations just by this, especially this guy was born in 1890, what, 2? So I hope you all try to do that too, to bring his whole family together. Yes, no, or some people just, this is the guy I'm related to, this is the guy that I'm going to follow. And so they don't do that. But I think it's a valuable asset to try to figure out where these children went, what they did, and how they're related, or what they're did, all of the descendants in there. Oh, fact. Okay. In 10 generations, you have 64,000 direct ancestors. 64,000 direct ancestors, and that doesn't include any aunts, uncles, or cousins, or anything. That is those parents, your grandparents had one child, and that is your direct ancestor. That's all. It's 64,000 with that. So you can imagine in 10 generations that'll get. You can imagine. I mean, I've been doing this. When I started doing this book, I said there were 10,000 people in there. That was just tracing the people with the Bloomer name. That book. It just gets too hard to do it then, back then. Now you can marriage records, and marriage records have been around a long time. Ancestry has great on marriage records. Okay, take on marriage records. It's a lot easier to trace those family names. So once I again finish everything I can do at home, and I decided that I can do, I come here and look at those certificates because I want to post, and I post those certificates in Family Search. And let me go up here. I don't know what you post in Family Search, but when I run across a picture or a certificate, oh, this is 2 pages out of that probate record. And this is found on Ancestry. Some people don't have access to Ancestry. To get to look at this record, you have to have Ancestry. I have a book that people, yeah, oh, yeah. How many have subscribed to newspapers.com? Right. That's, contemporary stuff. That, I mean, I answer so many questions from obituaries that I found on newspapers.com. These are things that other things I wanted to show you. I ran across this book in Salt Lake that was a reference book, and for whatever reason, people do not know it exists. And these are loyalists during the Revolutionary War. And it has family breakdowns and how people were related. And I went through this book, and again, my people were involved in the revolution. And it's surprising that there's some loyalists, but some of them were witnesses to other stuff. And this gives you, they're in alphabetical order. Okay. And so because that book isn't very well referenced or people don't know about it, I just posted those things in there. Most of these are certificates that I put in memories for people that I don't figure they're accessible, very accessible, so people can actually look at the actual record. And I just do that with Snippet. Is everybody familiar with Snippet? Just a little. Okay, it works great. Okay, and so if there is a record, I try to again post it in there. Oh, pictures of people from immigration records too. took that picture. If you go to a family reunion, people do not want to depart with any. That picture they had on their wall, and it was a treasure to them. And a cell phone, I don't know, 10 years ago, I had maybe my iPad or cell phone, but I took that picture with my cell phone and was able to put that in memories just because I had a cell phone with me. And you can do that with other stuff too. So that was a. Okay. Anyway, there's how many things I got posted in there. There's a tally in there someplace. So those are the kind of things that I want to post in memories, and those are usually the kind of things that will show up on my home. Oh. I haven't mentioned Bible Rescue. One of the things that we do here are we scan Bible information that are in old family Bibles. Okay, this one, and this reference, and it wasn't done here, but it was done with this problem. Maybe I didn't get the number in there. Oh, there. No, I didn't get the number in there. Anyway, this is from Bible Rescue. All right, and this is that. It's not the record I was looking for. From Bible Rescue. Anyway, stuff has come up. But anyway, one day the Bible, we have missionaries that work on Bible Rescue. They were in there copying, scanning information. They had brought a sheet out of the Bible that was reference to somebody in my family. So that's a neat project going on. Those are service missionaries that work in there and do that kind of, I mean, copy, scan those Bibles. Okay. Any questions? Why is it not able to do research at home and dot it out? Because it's convenient for me. All right. And I kind of for corn this morning. It was by a planter, but I planted it, fed my cows and took care of other things. But anyway, so I just love the information again, that scripture, and I start out in the 21st section of the Doctrine and Covenants. You know, it's the truth. I said 12 temples when I joined the church, and now 300 and something. And it's amazing what's going on. This technology has been predictive and it's here to help us, and it's just, my opinion, it's absolutely. I like to take advantage of it. There's things I can do here. Those records, I love to look at those actual records. They're a great help. I love to go to Salt Lake and just browse the books there in the areas I do. And when I usually go to Salt Lake, I have a list of things that I'm going to do. It's very valuable to me to have all the books that the call numbers that I want to look at. Okay. And not just go up there and say, I'll find it up there, because I don't do that. And that's not the wise use of your time, in my opinion. Okay. So when I go to Salt Lake, I have an absolute list of things that I want to do, and the books, the call numbers that I want to look up. So I'm just not up there walking around browsing books, but it's fun to browse in some books anyway. But I suggest that you have a list, and you can get the list off of search. Okay, doing a search on a county, you can see what books are available, and you can kind of bring them up. Genealogies too. I didn't bring up genealogies, but show you this number because I do that to other people when they come in here. This is just, is it going to show up? Yeah. This is information. This is real time. Okay. I mean, you get 1 million a day going in, 5 billion. This is records that are being introduced at church as we sit here and talk. I've shown people that because that's fascinating to me. All right, real time. I mentioned my wife does a lot of research in Europe, and she uses a lot of different sites than Ancestry because there are other sites that are probably better than Ancestry for collecting information. And I'm not familiar with some of those, but some of those are really good too. And if you, if my wife's here, you can ask her about European research, but she does Belgium. Poland a lot. And some of those records have already been extracted, and she just goes through and adds. So it's just indicative of things that are available today that have never been available. Great place to start your research. But I would again encourage you to have another program, whether it's Ancestry or Family Tree Maker, to have another one where you can record your information and nobody can change it and or easily and change your information. Another trick is once you add that information, you can submit their work. Once the work gets done, it's good, especially if you have those sources. So go home and think about that scripture, okay? That waited with anxious expectation for the fullness of their glory. That's amazing to me.
Didn't see one.
121, and I think it's 36 and 37, okay? I will give unto you knowledge by the unspeakable gift of the Holy Ghost that has not been revealed since the world was, which our forefathers have waited with anxious expectation to be revealed in the last days for the fullness of their glory. Think about that. You know, I could quote a lot of scriptures, and I'll tell you one more thing. Now, quick. All right. The whole basis of my testimony for this work started from a religion class that I took in the 1960s at BYU, where we had to memorize scriptures and come to class 2 days a week prepared to give a scripture on family history. And you couldn't get one that somebody else gave. All right. So by the time I got through with that class, I knew dozens of scriptures, and I attribute that to my belief and my enthusiasm for this work, because I've had amazing things happen to me with this work. I had a stake president tell me one time, your wife's been spared many times for whatever, for whatever reason, and it turned it on. And so when he told me that, it got a little bit more meaningful to me. But when I had another video that I show people about the blessings of this work, and they're amazing. If I told you, you'd say I didn't know what I was talking about. But, both temporal and spiritual blessings come from doing this work, and I'll justify it does. And even if you're not doing it for your family, it's all good. You get the blessing, okay? When you help other people, you get the blessing. When you enter somebody's name, maybe not relating to you, okay, that's great. That's great. Do that if you can. So I'm saying the same thing with Jesus Christ. If you have any questions? No. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Sorry, Tony called.
Thank you so much.
Pardon?